Well, this is something no one expected. Denver, Colorado has been named by one online publication the best city for pizza in America. Yes, that's pizza, not weed. And while those two things are undeniably linked, rarely do you hear anyone say Denver is an exceptional pizza city, much less the best. But in some recent rankings, yes, indeed, it did take the #1 spot over Chicago, over New York. And in fact, those two cities didn't even make the top 10. What's going on here? Well, we're going to dive into the list, see what they were looking at and why they ranked Denver #1. And it is kind of interesting. And then after that, go into what I believe are the truths and untruths of this list. So my attention was drawn to this by a Westward article, which points out that these rankings recently came out. And yes, Denver was ranked the best pizza city in America. This article by Molly Martin, great follow on Instagram, by the way. Go check her out if you haven't. And they talk about where this all comes from and what this means. And as you can guess, after this happened, it created a bit of online furor, let's say. Some people agreeing and some people disagreeing. And actually, not even really, just mostly people disagreeing, as one would understand. And if one would approach this with a cynical lens, which we all do from time to time, one may think that maybe these rankings were actually designed to create this online conversation and disagreement, and that's good for whichever website was creating the rankings. So the website in question is a real estate site actually called clever.com. Clever.com, here it is. Don't know exactly what they do in real estate, but real estate, of course, I respect that. Me personally being a real estate agent in the Denver, Colorado area, and my goal, of course, is to be your go-to guy for anything real estate. You know that if you've watched the channel before, but what's going on here? So Clever put together this list of best pizza cities in America, and notice they don't necessarily say the city with the best pizza in America. And that's where this gets a little confused. They're not looking at the city with the best overall pizza, the top quality pizza of anywhere you can find, which typically people think of New York, Chicago, some people Detroit, even St. Louis now, but New York, Chicago are the two that get thrown out there, because they do have a lot of good pizza and they really created two different styles of pizza, at least as far as I know. Really, pizza was created much longer ago, before those cities were even things, in a much farther away place, but I digress. What Clever is looking at here is how good of a pizza city it is overall, and to do that, they take in a number of factors. Some of them they researched, some of them they kind of made up. So here's what they're looking at. Number of pizza restaurants per 100,000 residents, average Yelp review of the pizza restaurants, the price of a large cheese pizza on average in the city, the percentage of one's income needed to buy said large cheese pizza. So this could be the pizza affordability index, if you will. And the pizza passion score. Well, what the heck does that mean? The passion score is based on a local Google search volume for 34 different pizza related terms. So basically, how much people are searching for pizza stuff in the area. And based on all these factors, overall, Clever decided Denver is #1. Pizza restaurants per 100,000 residents is 9.5, which is significantly more than the average of 8.4, so more pizza restaurants in Denver than average. Average Yelp review is just over 4 stars, 4.05. Denver residents love their pizza, and they're nice. I just feel like they're nice. I mean, who goes on Yelp and writes a bad review? It's someone who had a terrible experience, or it's someone who is a rat, a narc. I mean, honestly, if you have a bad experience at a restaurant, do you go online and write a review about it every time? Probably not. I don't. I just don't go back to the restaurant. If I have a good experience, I write a good review. So maybe there's a little bit of review inflation going on, and maybe our easygoing, relatively nature here in Denver is factoring into this with the average of over 4 stars. Some cities, East Coast, are gonna be a little less easygoing, and they need to tell you what they think about the pizza. If it was average, if it was whatever, I don't know. Some of us, we just like to give good reviews. I believe that's what's going on here. The average price of a large cheese pizza in Denver is $16.79, which is significantly cheaper than Clever's national average of over $19. And the percentage of your income spent on large cheese pizzas every week. This one's interesting to me. So they broke this down on if you were to buy a large cheese pizza every week, which you should not do, by the way, what percentage of the average income would that cost? Well, in Denver, it's just over 1%, which again, significantly better than the national average, which is about 1.5%. So the pizza's good. There's a fair amount of pizza restaurants, and it's relatively affordable. And the pizza passion score, based on these Google search terms, that's about an 82 on Clever's rankings, which is higher than their average, but it's actually lower than a lot of the other cities in the top 5. So we may be a little less passionate about pizza, which honestly makes sense. But these other factors outweigh it enough to give Denver the number 1 spot on the rankings. Okay, what's the rest of the top 5? Well, number 2 is Buffalo, New York. Number 3, Boston, followed by Philadelphia and San Diego. And you'll notice there's none of the marquee pizza towns here. So based on Clever's rankings, these are the best pizza towns in America. It differs widely from conventional wisdom, should we say. Connecticut is very well thought of in terms of pizza as well, and Connecticut doesn't show up till number 7, Hartford, Connecticut. Number 9, Detroit, of the famed Detroit-style pizza. There it is, number 9. But the big guys don't show up until number 14 and number 15. Chicago at 14, New York City at 15. Now, I think where these guys were really getting dinged in the rankings were the cost metrics, right? The average price of a large pizza, and then the affordability metric, right? Average price of a large pizza in Chicago and New York was $27 and $28, respectively. Denver's was $16. That is a huge difference. And affordability for percentage of your income in Chicago, it's almost 2%. And in New York, it's like 1.77-ish%. So Chicago, it's going to cost you double the amount of your annual income to buy a cheese pizza every week. Do not do it, especially if it's Chicago deep dish. So if we're to analyze the methodology, I think that's probably what's really going on here. Affordability is what's rising Denver to the top and pushing some of these others farther down. And who doesn't love a good, affordable pizza? That's the thing about pizza, and all food really, but pizza especially. It doesn't have to be fancy and expensive, and sometimes it's actually better when it's not. Sometimes it's better when it's just a greasy slice from a window that's hot and good. At least in my opinion, those are some of the best pizza experiences I've ever had. If you sit down for pizza and there's a white tablecloth, it's probably not gonna be the best. And that is one of the things people love about New York City, for example, where you can just grab a slice anywhere, which is why it's considered one of the best or the best pizza towns in America. Just not by this list. So basically, Denver gets the nod because pizza is relatively very affordable here. We love our pizza. Big, high Yelp ratings, and there's enough pizza restaurants to go around. The big gripe, of course, is that Denver doesn't have a style. Denver's pizza scene is made up of styles that are originated in other towns, right? New York style, that thin crust, Chicago deep dish, even the Detroit style pizza has been big here with Blue Pan. We don't really have a style of our own. So that's where people say Denver doesn't even have its own pizza. They have like an omelet named after them, and it's not even that good. But as Molly Martin points out in the Westward article, that is one of the things that actually makes our pizza scene pretty solid, and I agree with this. We don't have one style, so it's a blend of a bunch of different styles from everywhere, so it's not weighted too heavily in one direction. You can get kind of whatever you want, and the farther time moves along, the better versions of these whatever you wants we're seeing in all these different styles. There is actually some really darn good pizza here. We may not have the breadth of it that a New York City has, but you may have to look a little harder, but you can find great pizza here, and you can really find any style of great pizza here. Those of you who've watched this channel before know I've actually done a dispatch episode gallivanting around town, trying different pizza places, trying to find my favorite. I'll link to that at the end of this video. But right now, since we're on the topic, I want to give you my 4 favorite pizza places in Denver right now, why I like them. So number 4 is Blue Pan. Blue Pan, the Detroit style pizza that if you've lived here for any amount of time, you're definitely familiar with. A lot of people would put Blue Pan at or near the top in Denver. I've seen that a lot. It doesn't go to the top of the rankings for me, and it's just a stylistic preference. It's kind of like deep dish, but the Detroit style is thick. It's doughy, and I can't eat that much of it, and that makes me sad. I have a piece or two, and I gotta be done, which sucks because I wanna keep eating because it's delicious. So it is delicious. I wanna eat more of it. Can't, but still a great pizza place. Blue Pan, if you like that style of pizza, excellent. You will not be disappointed. Number 3, Cosmos. And Cosmos is really, as far as I consider it, more of a Boulder institution, but they do have 2 Denver locations as well. Cosmos is a great pizza spot. It is not fancy. It is a great place to late night go in and get a slice. I did it a number of times in my younger years. Good, simple, to the point, delicious pizza. They also have the 24-inch Mondo Mega pies, the huge, large ones, which is fun. If you're going to a party, you bring a 24-inch or 2, you're a hero. And the spicy ranch for dipping, which also, if you bring that, your heroicism will be confirmed. Heroicism, probably not a word. Number 2, Joy Hill on South Broadway. So you're going to see my bias here because my favorites all are a similar style of pizza, but Joy Hill is that sourdough crust, thin crust, super solid pizza, super great place to hang out. It's like slightly eclectic, but not too weird, great bar area, and their pizza is just flat out delicious. They have a pepperoni jalapeno honey pizza, one of their specialties. If you go, I recommend getting that perfect blend of sweet and spice. Delicious. I think about it a lot. And number 1, the best pizza place in Denver for me is Redeemer in Rhino. If you watch the Dispatch episode, you know that's the last place we went on the episode. Redeemer is just awesome. Everything there is great. Again, thin crust, sourdough. They do a 3-day sourdough leavening on the crust. It is a crust that I've never really tasted before. It has flavor, but it's so light and flaky, almost croissant-like. Not croissant-like because that would be weird, but in the flakiness and the lightness, it's so delicious. They have a main restaurant which you can go in and eat. It's not a lot of tables, but you can go in and sit down there. Or the best way to do it, go around the back, enter through the alley, and go to the slice window. That is the full Redeemer experience. And oh, hey, look what's popping up. That's the Dispatch episode that I was talking about. This one was a lot of fun to make. So if you want to watch gallivanting around town, trying a few different pizza places and giving the thoughts of what pizza is here, what it means to Denver, check that video out. Otherwise, you are the best. Talk soon.